Thank you. So welcome to this meeting of Subcommittee over the Licensing and Public Protection Committee of Birmingham City Council, which will be terminating a hearing for an application for a grant of a licence for the London Cocktail Bar. And I am Councillor Philip Davis, Chair of Subcommittee A of the Licensing Committee. If I could ask everybody before we start to mute your microphones for the moment, as this will assist sound quality, also to turn off your cameras other than panel members, as that helps with bandwidth. And panel members will generally keep their cameras switched on throughout the hearing. So again, if everybody can make sure they're in rooms with minimal disruptions, mobile phones off, etc., that will assist. And it's very important, for obvious reasons, that those attending the meeting making representations are able to hear me and the members of the subcommittee and officers. Any distractions or technical problems could result in the meeting being suspended temporarily or to another date and time under the regulations for these types of meetings. I can also confirm this is a public meeting and is therefore being live streamed on the City Council's website in order that the general public can view it. The formal agenda is as follows. Item 1, notice of recording webcast. I advise the meeting to note that this is a public meeting and will be webcast for live or subsequent broadcast via the Council's meeting YouTube site via the link in the agenda, and members of the press and public may record and take photographs except where they are confidential or exempt items. Item 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded they must declare all relevant pecuniary and non-pecuniary interests arising from any business to be discussed at this meeting. If a disclosure of pecuniary interest is declared, a member must not speak or take part in that agenda item. Any declarations will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. 3, apologies and notification from nominating members. There are none and no substitute members. So can I welcome you to this hearing for an application in respect of the London Cocktail Bar, 31 Temple Street, Birmingham, B2 5DB. As I stated previously, I'm Councillor Philip Davis. I'm chairing this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. With me are the 2 other members of the panel, Councillor Martin Straker-Welds and Councillor Bob Beecham. Also present are the following officers: the licensing officer, Mr. Bipin Dhanandra, the committee manager, Ms. Katie Townsend, and the committee lawyer, Ms. Jamin Swampel. Now, in terms of the parties, could I just ask you to identify yourselves? Firstly, for the applicant, Mr. Andrew Wood, solicitor.
Yes, good morning, councillors. I'm representing the applicants.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. And those making representations, which on this occasion are Councillor Hartley, one of the local councillors. Councillor Hartley. Councillor Hartley, are you?
Sorry, I won't be making verbal representations. We have submitted our comments in support of residents. And
you're speaking for Councillor Boer as well, I understand.
Yes, well, he's on his way to Scotland, so.
Okay, so thank you. Can I just ask any persons making representations at this stage? I think this is addressed to you, Councillor Hartley. Do you wish to withdraw any of your representations at this stage of the hearing?
I think my button's a bit stiff. No, not verbally.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I will assume that all parties have read and understood the Licensing Committee procedural rules set out in the notice of today's hearing. Please note that given the nature of today's proceedings, I may at my discretion amend the procedural rules to reflect the fact that this meeting is taking place online, but I want to assure you all that any such amendments will not impact on the parties' right to a fair hearing. We'll be using the chat function to assist communication in Microsoft Teams as part of this meeting. I think we're all familiar with this. There's a speech bubble on your computer controls to get into chat. And what we normally do, and if you could do this now, is confirm attendance by using that. So if you could now type in your names, this will assist the record of the meeting, particularly as the officers are taking notes by hand. So I'm just typing in my details now, and then if everybody could do the same, we are able to move forward. There we are. Okay. Seem to have got something on the screen there.
Oh no, sorry. Sorry. Oh
Is
dear.
that you, Kath?
It's me. I hit the wrong button.
Okay.
Sorry. Oh gosh, it's my diary. Oh,
Okay.
can we get this off?
Do
Oh
you
no.
want let's
Sorry.
stop the live stream briefly. Can we stop the live stream?
Dear me. Just
Have we stopped the live stream?
Oh dear. Which button do I hit to stop the sharing?
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll just pause for. Okay, live stream has resumed. Thank you for that. So we'll keep the chat column open for the entire duration of the meeting so that any messages in that can be notified to me as necessary. Don't think anybody's dialed in my audio telephone, so we don't have that complication. With the exception of the subcommittee members, please keep your camera off unless you're the person speaking, as this assists us with bandwidth. And I may, at my discretion, ask everyone to turn the cameras off in order that the meeting can proceed with everyone able to hear and be heard. I'm now on to preliminary points, and this is addressed to Mr. Wood and to Councillor Hartley. Do you have any preliminary points you wish to make, Mr. Wood, at this stage?
I have no preliminary points. I have an update about the residents, but I'll deal with that in my time, Councillor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hartley, did you have any procedural points you wanted to make?
No, I didn't. No.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, the procedure we'll follow today will firstly be the licensing officer, Mr. Pindanandra, will present his report. Then the applicant will and their representative will be asked to present their case, and we'll ask that this is normally kept to approximately 20 minutes. Then those making representations are invited to make their case, and again, approximately 20 minutes will be allowed for that part of the hearing. And again, if people can speak slowly and clearly, this will assist the officers who are making to the meeting. And again, please mute your microphone if somebody else is speaking, as this prevents feedback. Members of the subcommittee will be able to ask questions at any stage, but we'll try to do so at the conclusion of each presentation. Cross-examination by the applicant and those making representations will not be permitted unless the members consider it appropriate. In terms of communicating with me as chair, you can use the chat facility as well as getting my attention in the normal way verbally. And if at any point you can't hear, having problems with your internet connection, please use the chat facility to indicate that to alert the meeting manager. I can then intervene as prompted. Occasionally, it may be necessary for the subcommittee to take legal advice. At my discretion, I may ask all parties to wait in the meeting while members and the relevant officers withdraw to take legal advice using a separate meeting within Microsoft Teams. We'll then return to the meeting and continue. And if at any time the live stream being broadcast on the City Council website fails, I'll ask you all to mute your microphones and cameras and to stop speaking until the live stream is restored. If at any time the meeting goes into private session, the meeting manager will pause the live stream. Once the private part of the meeting is over, I'll ask the meeting to confirm the live stream is resumed. So at the conclusion of the meeting, of the hearing, I will invite all parties to make a brief closing submission. We usually allow about 5 minutes for that. And I stress no decision will be taken until all the evidence has been heard. At the decision-making stage, the members and the relevant officers will withdraw from the meeting in order to determine the decision. They'll go into a separate Microsoft Teams meeting. If we need to clarify any point, you'll be telephoned by the meeting manager. The members will then make their decision. Notification of the determination of the application will be sent out to all parties within 5 working days. Okay, so that is the process. And so with that, I would like to move on to invite the licensing officer, Mr. Pindenandra, to present his report. Mr. Nandra.
Thank you, Chair. The London Cocktail Club Limited applied on the 1st November 2021 for the grant of a premises licence for the London Cocktail Club, 31 Temple Street, Birmingham, B2 5DB. The purpose of the report is to consider representations that have been made in respect of an application for a premises licence which initially sought to permit the sale of alcohol for consumption both on and off the premises, to operate from 9 AM until 3 AM, Monday to Sunday, the provision of regulated entertainment consisting of films, live music, recorded music, performances of dance, and anything of a similar description to operate indoors only from 9 AM until 3 AM, Monday to Sunday, to permit the provision of late night refreshment to operate both indoors and outdoors from 11 PM until 3 AM, Monday to Sunday. After discussions with West Midlands Police, the applicant has agreed to amend the scope of the application with all licensable activities to cease at 2 AM, Monday to Sunday, with a last entry condition of 1 AM daily. The premises is to remain open to the public from 9 AM until 2:30 AM, Monday to Sunday. Representations have been received from other persons, which are attached at Appendices 1 to 5. The application is attached at Appendix 6. Conditions have been agreed with West Midlands Police and the applicant, which are attached at Appendix 7, and the site location plans are attached at Appendix 8. When carrying out its licensing functions, a licensing authority must have regard to Birmingham City Council's Statement of Licensing Policy and the guidance issued by the Secretary of State under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003. The licensing authority is also required to take such steps as considered appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. The options available to the subcommittee today are to grant the licence in accordance with the application, to reject the application, to grant the licence subject to conditions modified to such an extent as considered appropriate, exclude from the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, or to refuse to specify a person in the licence as the premises supervisor. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nandra. So we now move on to Mr. Wood for the licence applicant. So Mr. Wood, your presentation, please.
Thank you, councillors. Could I just do a couple of updates which hopefully will assist the councillors in making a decision in this case. Firstly, I submitted to Bapinda last week some documentation in support of the application. I'm not going to go through that in any great detail at all, and I'm sure it's been forwarded to you. But just to summarise, in there is a 3-page letter from me which actually summarises our case, and I don't propose to add a great deal to that letter. There are the conditions that we have proposed and agreed with the police, some photographs of other London cocktail clubs, an operational statement, a noise impact assessment report, and confirmation that a new planning application has been submitted. There's also a radius plan and some other licenses. Dawn Donoghue, who is the managing director of London Cocktail Club, is present at this meeting and is available for questions. I don't propose to ask Dawn anything. And Richard Vivian, who is the author of the noise report, is also present. Again, I don't propose to ask Richard any questions. The second update is with regard to the representations. There were 5 representations received, 3 from residents of Newton Chambers, which is directly behind these premises across Needless Alley, 1 from a resident of Essex House, and the other one was Councillor Bohr / Councillor Hartley's representation. Dawn and I met, well, we invited everybody to attend, but the three Newton Chambers residents attended a meeting with us on Thursday night, which was a very positive meeting. As a result of that meeting, 6 further conditions were proposed, which I think Bapinda will have circulated. They relate to the layout plan on page 38 of your papers had some licensable activities in a lower ground floor at the back of the premises. We've removed, at the request of the residents, a request for any licensable activities there. We've agreed that all deliveries, collections, waste collections, deposits of bottles, etc. will take place only on Temple Street and between 0800 and 2200. And then at the back of the premises, the windows on the raised ground floor abutting Needless Alley will be sealed shut and not capable of being opened. The windows at the rear will be covered and frosted so that nobody can see in and nobody can see out. We will set the noise limiter in agreement with the licensing authority / environmental health officers, so that there's no noise nuisance escaping from the premises. And as a result of those 6 conditions, one of the residents, who happens to be a town planner as well, has emailed me and Bapinda this morning confirming that their representation has been withdrawn. His email says that as a result of these conditions, we withdraw our representations. So I think the 3 Newton Chambers residents are now happy and have withdrawn. The Essex Chambers resident didn't attend the meeting. He wasn't well. He's been emailing me this morning, and we've agreed the same condition with regard to the windows overlooking the internal courtyard at Essex Apartments, as in those windows will also be frosted / covered over and will be sealed shut. And that resident confirmed that was a condition he wanted, and he's not present today. So I think that just leaves Councillor Hartley and Councillor Bohr really as those making representations. I think, as Councillor Hartley said, in support of the residents, but the position is that 3 of the 4 residents have withdrawn, and the other resident has proposed a condition which we have agreed. And I know Councillor Bohr / Hartley's representation relates to planning, and as my letter confirmed to you, and as I can confirm verbally now, these premises will of course not trade without the appropriate planning permission in place and with all conditions attached to planning properly discharged. As you will know and be advised, planning isn't a matter necessarily for this committee, but I just wanted to reassure you that there will be no operation of these premises without the appropriate planning permission and without conditions being discharged. So I think we're pretty much there with the residents, actually. I don't know if Councillor Hartley kept up to date with the emails about the conditions agreed, but I think the residents are now content with the position given the conditions that we've agreed and the noise report that Mr. Vivian prepared, which will be submitted to the planning authority to discharge the relevant conditions. And that noise report in summary says that all noise from activity inside the premises will be contained by the building envelope itself, so there'll be no noise escaping from the premises. I'm sure you know the building, but part of the redevelopment is that we have in our building, we have an office block next to us. We have offices on the ground floor, and we have 5 floors of offices above us as well. So we will be acoustically sealed from all of those offices so we don't disturb the offices, which naturally means that noise will not be escaping from the premises. And given the activity in Temple Street, the people leaving our premises will not impact on noise in the area, and there are mitigation strategies and proposed remedial works that will be carried out prior to the premises opening so that everything that's in the report is correct. So that's a background of where we are. Hopefully, I think with all the residents on board, and I'm not sure how that impacts on Councillor Hartley's position, but I'm sure we'll find out. So in terms of the application, I've probably spent 10 minutes doing that, and I can do this fairly briefly because I think most of the documentation has been submitted. London Cocktail Club is an operator of. Sorry, Councillor Hartley's come on the. Sorry, she's not now. Sorry, I'll continue. London Cocktail Club is an operator of premium cocktail bars. We have 13 other premises in the country. Some of those premises are very close to residents. 85% of our sales are cocktails, so we are not a beer-driven pub at all. It's an award-winning operation with an award-winning designer. We provide seating for approximately 3/4 of the occupancy, and if you walk into these premises elsewhere, you will see a lot of the people are seated. The investment in this site is in the region of £1 million, and we have liaised with the authorities in terms of the site itself. You have the layout plan at page 38. You have the location plan at page 42. There will be no access or egress out the back of the premises other than a fire escape, so Needless Alley will be protected by that. And as you will know, we are opposite. To the left is the Botanist, which has a 2 o'clock licence, and Manor Hatter just across to the right, which also has a 2 o'clock licence. So we're not seeking now, having discussed it with Chris at West Midlands Police, to go any later than anybody else in the area. In terms of the conditions that we've proposed, there are 46 conditions proposed in the application itself, which is page 28 to 31. There are 4 further conditions at page 41, which we have agreed with the police. And there are now the 7 additional conditions that will provide the protection to the residents, which we have agreed. And I don't know if you've got those in writing, but they've been sent to Bapinda, who has copies of them all. And just to reply to an email I got from Bapinda just before the hearing, I called the last condition number 8, but there are in fact 7 conditions which have led to the Newton Chambers residents withdrawing. As a result of those conditions, we have the residents withdrawing, no objections from the police, no objections from environmental health. Quite a bit of the original representation refers to planning. In fact, Councillor Bohr and Hartley's submission just refers to planning. As I said, we will ensure we won't trade without the appropriate planning permission, and the appropriate applications have been made. And in fact, a new application was submitted, and that's on page 49 to 56 of my additional papers that I've submitted. we have submitted the noise report that Richard has prepared to confirm that the premises will be acoustically sealed to ensure that all noise is contained within the building envelope. And the residents were particularly concerned about deliveries and times of deliveries and waste collections, etc. So we've agreed additional conditions with regard to those concerns. The applicant, we've also provided our details to the residents who we met and have assured the residents that subject to the licence and planning being granted, and if the licences are granted and we start to trade, then they will retain our details in case there are any other issues. Dawn, who is on the meeting, is very committed to working with residents and will continue to do so. And we hope that you are completely satisfied, in particular, given the fact that the residents, 3 have withdrawn, that the additional conditions have now satisfied them with regard to noise, and therefore you can be properly satisfied that a 2 o'clock licence here will have no impact at all on noise, and that in fact the application thoroughly promotes the licensing objectives with all of the conditions which are being proposed. There are no representations with regard to crime and disorder or public safety, but all of those are equally covered in the conditions that are proposed. And we have a very experienced operator, used to operating in major city centres and also equally used to operating with residents. So that, councillors, is a whistle-stop tour through the application. The evidence has been submitted and we are here should you have any questions, and thank you for your time. I think you're on mute, councillor. Sorry.
Sorry, thank you. Sorry for that. Thank you, Mr. Wood. We have the documents in front of us, and I think the letter, your letter of December the 13th you're referring to is page 48. But as you say, we've had some further information. Okay. Questions then. Councillor Straker-Wells.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Woods. My questions really are around noise and hours, because that's the chief issues that were raised. Can I check, first of all, are the hours that you have renegotiated in line with the planning application? That's one. The second question, were the residents content with the addressing of the noise issues in your plan? And the last question for me would be, is the clientele that you are trying to attract, or indeed targeting, is the clientele a factor that you feel is an important consideration? Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, councillor. The hours that we have applied for with this application match the hours of the new planning application that was submitted last week. Secondly, the residents were happy with the fact with our conditions, and a measure of their happiness is the fact that one of the residents who has been contacting me as on behalf of the other 2 is a town planner, so he knows the process well, and they, as a result of our conditions and everything that we told them, they have withdrawn their representation. So I hope that's as good as an indication that we can get that they are happy. And thirdly, the clientele that we are aiming for, it's a premium high-end bar. We attract those who enjoy premium prices and a premium setting. So this is not premises that would attract maybe the clientele who you may be more inclined to be noisier and cause any trouble, without trying to suggest that any particular group is worse than any others. I think it's fair to say that our clientele are those who show themselves to be well behaved, being attracted to these sort of premises. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. It does. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Beecham.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, one or two small questions. You've obviously worked very hard to get this sorted out, particularly on the conditions side. However, smoking, the smoking area, where is that?
When we discussed it with the residents, we've agreed that the people who wish to smoke will go out onto Temple Street and will not be allowed on the back in Needless Alley.
Right. And any supervision in that area?
Certainly during the evenings, the proposal is that when required there'll be door staff there, and if they're not, then the management will supervise the people on the street. They will be watched by the bar, whether that is door supervisors or by management and staff. But we will retain responsibility for those smokers who are on the streets, certainly our smokers.
The capacity of the premises, what's the capacity?
At the moment, Councillor, it looks to be about 450. That's the capacity, yeah.
And how many security staff and of what nature do you propose to check the incoming and outgoing?
So we've agreed with the police to risk assess. I can't remember the exact wording of the condition, but we've agreed with the police that we will have door supervisors as and when required, which generally means when you generally be looking at a Friday and Saturday or Thursday if Thursdays are going to be busier. But we've agreed with the police that we will risk assess when we have those door supervisors and when they'll be on the door. I'll have a quick look while you ask the next question whether there's anything more specific than that. No, the police were happy. It was condition 24 that we have to have a risk assessment and we have to employ door supervisors as and when the risk assessment requires that. I mean, generally speaking, that's certainly going to be on the busier evenings.
Well, that's answered the question, really, and thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beecham. So thank you, Mr. Wood. Is that your presentation for the moment?
It is, thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to Councillor Hartley. Councillor Hartley.
Oh, thank you. Yes, we're very much in support of what residents were saying at the start of this process, and we're pleased to see that they've been able to reconcile most, if not all, of their queries. And I would have attended the meeting on site had I been available to do so. So we're going along and very much supporting residents in this matter. However, I think there needs to be a really careful look at the various quarters within the city centre, and that Councillor Bohr and myself would very, very much support a review of the nature, if you like, the ethos and the purpose of this part of the retail business improvement district quarter area, and that perhaps there needs to be some kind of pause now to look at the intensity and density of entertainment outlets within this particular area, where many, well, some, quite a few, a lot of the former commercial buildings have been converted into residential apartments. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So you're really making a point about cumulative impact, are you?
Yes, I think you're seeing this drip feed of this entertainment and leisure and a restaurant and bar type activity in this area, and I do feel that it's kind of creeping up. And we both, Councillor Bohr and myself, would like to see a pause and for a review to be carried out on the cumulative impact, yes, on what is what the way forward could be for when future applications come in of this nature. Otherwise, it's just going to be a continuing battle for residents and councillors, perhaps even after planning and licensing approval has been granted.
Can you give us any, based on your knowledge of the area over a number of years, concerning the growth of licensed premises in the particular location?
Yes, I've been on site visits with residents to streets, narrow streets off New Street. I haven't got actually a list of them in front of me. I was going to be questioned in this way, but I do think really perhaps with the police and with retail bid managers to just take a look at what is happening in these streets off New Street, particularly in the evening and at night. We certainly have got an issue with loud and well into the early hours of the morning street entertainers and musicians. That is something that really has emerged and which we are working on with residents and the authorities, environmental authorities.
Thank you. Councillor Beecham, do you have any questions?
Oh, you've already asked.
Okay. Councillor Straker-Wells.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Hartley. I understand and sympathise with your wish to ensure that residents are not impacted negatively, and I can also understand the points you make about entertainment in the city centre. But specifically to do with this application, are you reassured that the residents have been considered? I mean, the residents' issues have been taken seriously and have been considered?
Well, yes, I am, because I think they're assured, they seem pretty convinced that they've been listened to and their views and standard of life and quality of life been taken into consideration in this instance, yes.
And given the points that you make about the city centre and noise generally, are you reassured about the steps that have been taken? The steps have been taken to ensure that noise is kept within bounds, and the hours are also of a more reasonable nature.
Well, yes, if residents are, and so am I. I don't actually live there. I just work with residents and for residents in the city centre, in Ladywood Ward in general too.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Hartley. There'll be an opportunity to sum up at the end, and in fact, we are now into those closing submissions. So would you like to sum up, Councillor Hartley, just briefly?
Well, I hadn't actually attended the meeting with a view to speaking at any great length, but rather in support of the residents in their efforts to bring about the optimum outcome to these applications, planning and licensing.
Okay, thank you. That's fine. If that's what you wish to say, we'll certainly note that. And so now back to Mr. Wood. Your opportunity to sum up, Mr. Wood.
I don't propose to add a great deal, councillors. You'll probably be relieved to hear. I think Councillor Hartley has been very fair in saying that she's here with the residents, and the residents are happy now with the position. I think it's right to say that actually there wasn't one thing that the residents asked for that we didn't agree with. It wasn't a case of bartering between. The residents said, these are our concerns and this is what we would like you to do. And Dawn's response to that was to propose the additional conditions and agree. And I would hope from a noise point of view that if the residents are now content with the position, based on our conditions and the report that Richard Vivian has put in, that you will also be content with the position. and that with the significant number of conditions, this application most definitely promotes the licensing objectives. I know I don't need to spend any great time on this, but the issue that Councillor Hartley said with regard to cumulative impact on your policy will be, I'm sure, a matter that you as councillors in association with West Midlands Police will look at and consider carefully at the next review. And I'm sure you'll forgive me for saying that necessarily isn't part of this application and considerations for that, but particularly in view of the fact that nobody is presenting any evidence now to you to say that these premises will add to any problems, will cause crime and disorder, and in fact nobody is now saying that they will impact in terms of noise, given that the residents have withdrawn their representations. But I hope the overall thing you take from this is that this is an application that has considered the position in Birmingham and in Temple Street very carefully. It has proposed a significant number of conditions. It's worked closely with Westminster Police. It's had a very positive meeting with the residents, and should you be kind enough to grant the licence, then rest assured we will continue to keep in touch with the residents and ensure that all of their concerns and needs are well protected. And I hope you find that this would be a welcome addition to Birmingham City Centre. Those are my submissions, councillors. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wood, and thank you, Councillor Hartley, again for assisting the committee today. I'll now ask all parties to leave the Teams meeting, and the members, the committee lawyer and the committee manager will go into private session while the subcommittee makes its decision. You'll be notified of the decision of the subcommittee within 5 working days. Again, thank you very much for your contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you.